I've looked at my view of Howard Hawks' Rio Lobo from 1970. So yes, we are back once again, ready to get something from the channel. This time around, we're here for the final film in the trilogy of this Howard Hawks set of films, and obviously as well, the final Howard Hawks film they ever made. So yeah, this is going to be an interesting one to talk about, and today I want to share my thoughts very briefly on this film. There won't be any spoilers in this video, just giving my general thoughts on this, and yeah, it'd be great to do that, and in the comments as well at the end to hear your thoughts on this film, and yeah, just watch this kind of in recent months kind of thing, and it's one that I don't have too much to say about, but I'll give it my best kind of go, and yeah, just share my thoughts and my general feelings towards this film, and first time viewing as well, what I thought compared to the other two films in the trilogy, which of course we have talked about on the channel before. And so yeah, with all that said, let's discuss my thoughts on this film, and yeah, this is one that I did overall enjoy. I think it was an okay film. I just think in comparison to the other two in the trilogy, which as I say, we've discussed on the channel, last year as well it was, I discussed El Dorado from 1966. That was the one that was, really solid. That was good, and I think this one is actually not as good as El Dorado. And certainly my favourite in the trilogy is Rio Bravo. That is one of my favourite westerns, and it's a masterpiece for me. And I think this one definitely falls short of that, but it is enjoyable. It's an okay film. It's got certain aspects of the film, very drawn out though in this one, and I think with the plot and the characters, it's just something about this one with the flow. It's definitely off, throughout the film, and it's kind of stretched out as well. This one, and it's definitely got some charm and kind of magic to some of the team up of the characters, but it's just not in comparison to the previous two of the trilogy in that sense. And John Wayne, of course, is cord in this film. He is just so great in this film as always, and I think definitely it's the highlight of the film. Seeing John Wayne in this and his character, just some of the comedy, in this one is definitely really funny with him, and I think you've got some moments with other characters who kind of bring something to the film at least, in terms of the comedy. But I think overall it's just more of a it's a John Wayne film that everything around him is just it could have been better. And I think the actual plot, being of course in the American Civil War, it's really interesting kind of backdrop, and what happens at the beginning of the film, in that sense, and how they're playing on this time period. The train, of course, this Union train, and it's kind of robbed. And you read the rest of the film as John Wayne's character of Cord trying to seek out these traitors, in that sense, and kind of catch them, really for what's happened in the first kind of 15 minutes of the film. So that setup is definitely something that kind of leads into the rest of the film, and that's the when John Wayne's character of Cord goes off, and he meets different characters, and that is kind of the adventure part of the film. And I think it's just something that it's really drawn out for me in the way it's done. At times this one, but it is entertaining, enough, and we have different moments with other characters as well, interactions, which I think could have been better as well. Something about this one where it's a bit flat at times, and just some of the other characters, the side characters that he meets along the way, just aren't that interesting. We have, of course, Jorge Rivero. He is definitely good in the film, and I think some interesting chemistry going on there. Jennifer O'Neill in the film as well. She's kind of teams up with John Wayne as well, and there's some funny moments, especially the kind of the blanket John Wayne. That was absolutely hilarious. But generally this is more light humour throughout the film, and it's not kind of consistently funny like for example Rio Bravo was, and it's nowhere near as investing either. Just the narrative, and that was obviously mainly one location kind of thing, Rio Bravo, and it's something where it's a very different type of film. El Dorado as well is different, and this one is once again so different to those other films in the trilogy, which is good to see, but it isn't something that lives up at all to those ones. It's just not that investing for me, and there's just not really much memorable moments in this one looking back on it. Sequences, action sequences that stand out, and just characters really, other than Cord, who is kind of obviously definitely interesting in the film, and obviously it's John Wayne again, so he's great to see in this film. But I think it's just the rest of the characters are just not that great, not that interesting. Jack Elam in the film is definitely one of the highlights. He was really good in this, and I just think some of the kind of moments is a bit to B grade as well in this one. And while the tone is definitely quite consistent, I just think there's not enough going on in this one. And I think there's some comedy in the film that's quite nice to see, and it doesn't break the tone in that sense. But I think there's something off definitely about the characters in this one, and just some of the moments of dialogue, and just the way things are kind of progressing with different characters, and but some of the moments with the dialogue of the characters, it's a bit off and a bit strange what's going on at times. Doesn't really, fully, kind of work and gel, and it's a bit, kind of, it's not tonal breaks. It's just, I think, that the flow, the editing more, and just some of the characters in themselves, I think, as I say, are very B grade. So it just kind of, it does have a strange effect at times, in that sense. But I think in terms of the comedy and the mixture of comedy and drama and progressing the narrative, it's definitely consistent with the tone. Just other parts are kind of it's a bit strange in this one, and it is a very strange film at times. And I think it's quite drawn out, for me. But it has some really nice visuals, and I think the Jerry Goldsmith score, in this one is absolutely stunning. And it's really just a really nice western to watch, obviously. And I think the visuals to this, well, not as good as again the previous two, are definitely to praise, and I think the locations to this, really stunning. Across Mexico, this was filmed a lot, so yeah, really nice locations. It's just a bit basic with the narrative. The characters are not enough to kind of keep me, invested throughout the film, consistently, and I think. John Wayne's character of Cord, is the standout. I think Jack Elam in the film as well. As I say, he is really good in this one, and he's always a standout, in westerns. But I think definitely a highlight in this one, and I think the whole way it kind of starts out, considering how it's definitely a bit more investing at times, in that sense, with the whole train robbery and the way the film sets up, the kind of act of in a sense vengeance, for Cord, for John Wayne's character. I think just considering that, I think. It kind of loses itself, at times, in the film with that, kind of drive, and becomes a film that, it's just a bit more kind of a general kind of adventure western, which is fine, but it's just something about this where the narrative has got, inconsistencies. And, the final act is definitely enjoyable at times, and, it was investing to a point, but, I think there's just something, again, about this one. It's not, fully something where it comes together, really in that final act for me, personally, just in a general sense. But yeah, obviously as the final Howard Hawks film that he made, and the final in this trilogy, it's definitely, an interesting film to see, and it's one I did overall enjoy. It was a film that I enjoyed watching. It was pleasant, and it was a nice western to watch. Just not the most investing, really, consistently for me, and it wasn't too much really that happened in this one, to be quite honest. And in terms of the action, the shootouts, when they did happen, they weren't that sharp, that kind of engaging. Really, they were, they were okay. They were engaging enough, fun enough to see. But I think there's just something lacking, throughout a lot of the film in the different acts, of this one. And just a film that kind of doesn't really go anywhere at times, and it's kind of meandering, and then it comes back round and all this, and it's something that's just definitely lacking a lot. But I did enjoy this one. The visuals, the score, of course, as I've said, by Jerry Goldsmith, was stunning, and some of the character interactions and the comedy, and just the overall, feeling of this and the locations was really nice to see. And obviously, John Wayne as Cord, he was great, and it's a nice film to watch. And overall, more of an average film though, in comparison to the previous two in the trilogy. It doesn't quite, come together, and it's not one that compares to those films for me personally, but it is, an enjoyable film for me personally. So yeah, my rating for this film is a 62%. So definitely an average film for me. It's not one that I loved or anything like that, and it was enjoyable, but it's one of those very bare bones and basic, and a bit kind of empty in places, but a pleasant enough western to watch, and to see John Wayne in this, and various different actors in this one. It was really cool for that, and the visuals, the score, and just at times there's different moments in this film that I found to be quite funny, and definitely engaging, and you've got some highlights obviously with the set pieces, especially at first with the robbery itself, the train robbery, and different moments in the film that well done, well put together. But it's just something about it, as I've said, with the flow, the narrative, and the way it kind of progresses. It's just a bit off, and a bit basic and meandering, and definitely very drawn out, and just not memorable enough for me. And as kind of sharp, and I think as consistently engaging of a western film. But yeah, that's my thoughts on this film. What do you think on this? It'd be great to hear in the comments your thoughts on this, your opinions on this film, and how does it compare for you to different John Wayne westerns, and obviously how does it compare to Rio Bravo and El Dorado as well, for the trilogy. What do you think, in comparison to those films with this one, kind of thing. It'd be great to discuss this all, in the comments. But yeah, more discussions on westerns to come on the channel very soon, and coming back to consistently kind of putting stuff on the channel again, now. And yeah, review next will be, in terms of westerns, Hang 'em High, and look forward to that. That's a couple of weeks ago I saw this film now, and yeah, just gathered my thoughts on it, and that's obviously a Blu-ray as well, so that was great to see, and that's one that I did enjoy as well. So look forward to discussing that. But yeah, various westerns to talk about on the channel, and very soon. And I've got a few films that I've watched over the last few months, westerns, and very much looking forward to as well. Quite a few that I've got planned over the next few months, and into the Christmas period. That'll be really warm and nice to see. And yeah, various westerns, of course. But yeah, really hyped up, really super pumped for all this kind of stuff on the channel, and yeah, really looking forward to doing all this kind of stuff over the coming months. So yeah, all that said, let's discuss this film down below in the comments and celebrate cinema. So yes, as always, take care and thanks for watching.